All right, Varinder, thanks a lot for that. Taher Badshah is also with us. Taher, hi, good afternoon. The last 3 months have belonged to some of your top holdings. Post correction, the move in HPCL, Maruti, Eicher Motors, all of that has been quite phenomenal, and most of them back to old highs. What's the call in some of these names from here on?
So we've continued to be with them, and we've honestly not changed anything in our portfolio in terms of position in these names. The weightages probably would have moved up and down, but this is the advantage of probably having this longer term buy right, sit tight philosophy, that you at some level you don't want to act and try and do things around in a portfolio which are unnecessary. So I think this is kind of coming quite handy now at this stage, when we are seeing that many of these stocks wherein we have maintained our conviction and they've remained some of our large holdings with 7, 8, 9% kind of allocations have delivered, and not just delivered in terms of price performance, but we've kind of been well supported by earnings growth as well. So in a way we've earned our keep in a way. So that's more satisfying, because many of these companies have shown decent numbers in an environment which is reasonably constrained as far as overall growth goes.
Oh yes, that buy right and sit tight strategy has worked very well for you, Taher. I mean, just case in point, a stock like Maruti, it's almost close to its lifetime high yet again. Wanted your thoughts on how to approach that name now, because now premiumization is working exceptionally well for them. Do you see a lot more operating leverage for them as they start to, or rather as they sweat their Nexa assets better?
Somewhat, definitely, and more than that, I think the realization for the market that they have kind of now getting a foothold and getting themselves established in the higher end segments, and the executive segment is now still not fully sunken, I would think, and it's gradually coming about. So that just imparts relatively more longevity to the overall franchise of Maruti. It was always there was always a lurking concern in the mind of the market that when the market moves when the demand moves to the higher end segments of the market, will Maruti be able to follow? And I think with the Brezza, with the the Baleno, some of those concerns are gradually going away. So I think that's something which will probably come in handy, particularly at a time when there is a little bit of volatility around the currency, which kind of does influence their margins to some degree. But they've got a lot of mitigating factors, as you also said, that they will they will rightly exploit some part of the operational leverage as well and offset these currency benefits. So I think we are once again looking at I've been mentioning that this year is probably going to be not as much of currency related benefits, but more of dependence on volume growth. And I think that picture on the volume front for Maruti is getting a little more exciting and better. So FY17, once again, I think we will probably see after a quarter or so earnings upgrades coming in, and we should not, last but not the least, we should not forget the fact that they still have nearly 45% exposure to the rural markets, and those are looking like kind of bouncing back. So I think we will see upgrades as we go. So I think it's once again in for about a 20-25% earnings growth in this fiscal year versus last year.
Okay, Taher, stay on with us. Just about 2 minutes left for markets to close. So let's just do a quick recap. The market is ending at high point of the day because of the expiry factor. So between 3 to 3:30, the move that you saw was purely an expiry driven move, but the bulls would take that. The Nifty ending at 86.64. After spending better part of the day below 86.50. Stock of the day was still Asian Paints, that ended with 6% gains, so new all-time high market cap, 1.1 lakh crores. Maruti was the other big stock, up 4.5%. Eicher Motors, ahead of its numbers, was up 4.5%, moved within 200 or 300 rupees, that's 1% of a new all-time high. Bosch was up about 3.5%. So the higher price stocks, the 20,000, 40,000, 30,000 rupee stocks, they did well in today's trade. Apart from that, ITC and HDFC were the two stocks which accounted for bulk of markets gain in last 30 minutes of trade. You may want to call it index management on expiry day, but at the end of the day, these stocks moved markets. TCS as well, up 1.5%. Sun Pharma up 2.5%. Reliance was up about 1%. Coal India was the other big gainer in today's trade. You could add ICICI Bank as well, which has been the stock of this month, by the way, ahead of its numbers in tomorrow's trade. On the way down, Tata Steel was down about 3.5%, so fair bit of profit booking in Tata Steel. Tech Mahindra was down 3.5% as well. This stock has again become an underperformer. Aurobindo Pharma, Larsen & Toubro and Z Entertainment were the other notable losers. But through the day we had huge mid-cap outperformance, and the buzzword was GST in the closing trade, Sonia.
Oh yes, it was, and a lot of these logistics stocks rallied on the back of that. Gati was your big mover, up 5.5%, and it had company with sort of Snowman Logistics and the others, all of them up about anywhere 5-6%. Ujjivan was the other big gainer today, 10% higher, huge volumes getting traded there. The cement stocks rallied in late trade, so India Cements did exceptionally well, up almost about 6.5%. You had very strong numbers coming from Escort, so that stock ended in the green by about 3-4% or so. You had good numbers from ZF Steerings, a smaller company but done very well this time around and has been a good wealth creator over the past few months. So ZF Steerings is another one that rallied today. On the downside, PNB was under pressure, down about 3% post its numbers. You had Jain Irrigation that came in for some profit taking. Syntex was down almost about 4% or so on the back of that news flow coming in there. But that's the biggest headline. The Nifty is at a fresh 52-week closing high. It's the highest levels that we've seen since April of 2015. So we've covered so much ground in such a short span of time, and the bulls clearly are in absolute control of this market. Let's get back to our guests and talk about some more calls now. Taher, I was just going through some of the holdings that you have in your funds, and so many stocks looking exceptionally good. Lupin is one such company that you've been holding for a while, and there is added comfort with its Goa plant, with the new products getting approval from there. Do you see more upsides for names like Lupin?
Yeah, possibly. I think we have seen some good news around for many of the players in the sector, and some of the negative sentiments around the sector are kind of reversing. We are seeing US FDA now acting a little more firmly in many cases, and we are seeing outcomes coming about for not just the large caps but even the mid cap companies. And similarly in case of Lupin too, we have seen some part of the approval coming in for the one level of inspection which had happened in Goa. Something else is awaited. There are some product approvals which are going around. So I think business is kind of looking like coming back. We will probably see a little bit of back-ended growth in FY17 and maybe a little more so in FY18. But the growth trajectory which had kind of paused over the last 2 quarters in case of some of these companies is clearly looking like coming back. There is relatively more confidence in the delivery and the expectations of the numbers which are there in some of these names. So I think Lupin has been a name which is kind of given us a little bit of pain as well. I mean, we know it kind of came down from nearly 2,000, 2,100 levels to 1,500 levels. But I think again this is one place where we have kind of sat through the journey, and I think we are looking forward to a resumption of growth. So I guess we are looking for better times ahead in this name.
Okay, well, one more stock I wanted to discuss with you is Hero MotoCorp. I know you don't own it in your portfolio anymore, but that was a stock that you guys have been bullish on for very long. How did you read into the news flow of Sunil Munjal stepping down as the joint MD of Hero MotoCorp? Do you think it would make any difference to the business at all, or not much, because he was in any case not participating too much in the day-to-day running of Hero MotoCorp?
Yes, I really wouldn't ascribe too much or read too much into it in terms of day to day. So long as he is available in terms of overall guidance and even in terms of strategizing as it was the case earlier. So I would think that would be sufficient. So I wouldn't really expect any major disruptions as a result of that.
Okay, thanks gentlemen for joining us and taking us through the last 1 hour. It's been a fairly good day for the bulls, you must say. 0.6% higher, Sensex now above 28,200 and the Nifty is at a new 52-week high. But our closing bell money control question of the day